Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Push with Nick and KB. We are back once again to bring you a weekly recap, this time of week 2 of NXT Revenge from the Performance Center in Orlando, Florida on April 21st. We kick off the show with Dion Lennox of Dark State going one on one with Miles Bourne, who is defending his NXT North American Championship. As you might expect, Dark State uses their numbers advantage, I believe a total of 4 times, and Gian Lennox very much takes advantage of each opportunity this arises. Really does make this match feel very personal, though, slamming Miles into the exposed iron under the ring and then slamming him down on those steel steps. In the end, though, as it often does, the advantage Dark State was providing ended up costing Dion, and Miles lands a Born Again to defeat Dion and still our NXT North American champion. Clearly continuing down the road of Dark State, continuing to have those communication issues. And we see later on in the evening that Sugar Ray tries to brag essentially that he got a rematch and the rest of Dark State is happy, especially Dion. He then goes on to say that no, the rematch is for him, not Dion. So definitely continuing down those communication issues for Dark State. Next match of the evening has Joe Hendry going on one with Keanu Carver, as kind of built up over the last week, as if the winner wasn't already obvious, as in the, just the match laid out on its face. Last night on Raw, they did announce that Joe Hendry is going to appear on an episode of Raw next week. So I think that pretty much all but confirms his debut, main roster debut on Raw. So with that, the finish, although unusual, really not all that I expected, as Keanu continues to show how dominant he can be and does dominate most of this match and ends up winning due to a referee stoppage. I think it makes sense, though, of course, if Joe is on his way out or at least up to main roster, might as well allow Keanu to make a statement, and that's exactly what he did here, and continues his run of being quite the force in his short time on NXT. The next match has Lexis King going one on one with EK Prosper for that vacated Speed Championship. Lexis King capitalizing on the distraction caused by Birthright, kind of as they always tend to do, lands a coronation and wins that Speed Championship with just about under 30 seconds remaining in the match. Not all bad news for EK, though, as he did look really good here, but unfortunately just could not overcome the numbers game that the Birthright did provide Lexis King. He did ask for a rematch, though, later on in the evening, so I assume EK will be back sooner rather than later. The next match of the evening has Blake Monroe going one-on-one with Tatum Paxley, who's defending her Women's NXT North American Championship in a casket match as chosen by Tatum last week, with, of course, the help of Shiloh Hill, as he helped build the casket himself. This was a fun and very emotional contest, with the ending coming from Blake once again trying to use those diamonds that happened to be in a bag from the casket, as was her fake North American title. That plan, of course, backfired when Tatum lands a cemetery drive and puts Blake and her fake title back in the casket, closes the lid to get the win, and still our Women's NXT North American Championship is Tatum Paxley. I imagine this is probably the end of that, aptly named by the NXT pseudo PLE, I guess we'll call it, the Revenge week 1, week 2. All of these matches obviously have felt very personal, and this one was probably the best of the night, but not to be bested by the main event, but we'll get into that in just a bit. In our first and only in-ring promo of the evening, we see our NXT Women's Champion, Lola Vice. Lola says the hardest part isn't winning the championship, but it is keeping it, especially in this very deep and talented women's division currently in NXT, as we've seen in week prior when several potential contenders did come into play. But this week, Lola goes on to say that these women may try to take this title, but all that's going to happen is the challenger is going to get knocked out and then danced on. Then enters the Cullings Izzy Dame, who walks into Vice City to say you may be ready for the big moments, but that she needs to keep her head on a swivel as the Culling is always 2 steps ahead. Nico Vance distracts Lola long enough for Izzy to hit a big boot and then grab the NXT Women's title from her to stand over her and stand tall on this occasion. So I think we saw a few potential contenders last week, but it does appear, at least in the near future, that Izzy is first up. And before our main event, we do see an LFG Season 3 kind of promo reminder for this Sunday with 2 new judges in Natalia and Kevin Owens. Really looking forward to that. But again, that is this Sunday. We then get into our main event of the evening, which has Sol Ruka going one-on-one with Zarya in a last woman standing match, similar to the Joe and Keanu match. I feel the outcome for this one may be a bit predictable because of Sol's debut on Raw last night, but hoping this match is as good as it should be with how long this feud has been going. We see on Raw last night Zarya costing Sol her first loss on her debut night at Raw. Zarya doesn't make a traditional entrance here and attacks Sol from behind to kick off the match, and it doesn't really slow down from there. We see trash cans, kendo sticks, cable wire, and everything in between, showing how personal this rivalry has been and how bad each woman wants it. What felt like it should be the final bit had Zarya F5ing Sol through the announce table off the barricade, but Sol still answers before the 10 count. Then a table gets brought out by Zarya, and apparently that wasn't enough as she brings out yet another one as well. This is awesome chance from the crowd as Sol hits Zarya with a hefty piece of announce table that was destroyed a bit earlier, and then Zarya lays out on the 2 tables by Sol as she climbs up on top of the bird's nest, but Zarya followed her unbeknownst to her. Sol ends up hitting a Soul Snatcher, not off of the crow's nest, but at the top of it still, avoiding a very dangerous spear right before that. And then both women are teetering from the top, what has to be close to 15 feet ish above those tables. Each woman landing blows back and forth, and it appears that Sol has the better of Zarya. Zarya then pleads with Sol, and Sol brings her away from the edge. And it appears both women have buried the hatchet. They hug. Of course, 99% of us probably know that's not actually going to happen. Zarya gets that look in her eyes and then tosses Sol off the table, and that's the end of this match as Sol is unable to answer the 10 count. Very nasty landing. Hopefully Sol is okay. Didn't like that landing at all, but it does its job. Zarya ends up standing tall, as she should, rightfully so, if she is the one remaining on NXT. And what a main event. That one was worth the wait and better than any WrestleMania women's match we had over the weekend, in my opinion. That is just the real facts of life, unfortunately, right now. But yeah, great main event, great NXT week 2 revenge. Lots of good matches, and everything felt very, very personal. But that was the NXT recap here, all done. If I had to give this one a rating, I'd probably give this one a 9. Everything felt really personal, and it's got some good matches in between. So, yet again, another good episode of NXT and a nice little recap or finishing of that Revenge 2-week show. But enough from us over here at The Push. What did you all make of this episode of NXT? What did you make of that main event? Would love to hear from you in the comments below. If you like what we're putting out here, please do feel free to hit that like and subscribe button as well. But until next time, this has been The Push with Nick and KP. We'll see you soon. Take care.